I know I'm muted. I'm rolling a blunt. Nice to see you all. What's going on, broski? It's good to see you, Martin.
Nothing much. Just had dinner with the kid. Hey, let's play the
Well, what's up, folks?
What's up?
What's up, Kershaw? It's good to see you. What's up, Martin Zumback? How you guys doing, bro?
Yo.
What the fuck's going on?
Another day in the shit show.
Ready for another day of market manipulation by the Fed and the market makers?
Yes, sir.
God damn, we're gonna be so fucking rich.
Born ready, sir.
Did you guys hear that a cruise missile strike hit a training center?
I just see it flagged up in the chat.
Yep.
Spike's dropping right now. I don't know if you noticed that.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. It looks like we're about to go to war with Iran and Russia and China. Who knows what the fuck else?
Holy shit.
I'm not laughing at the situation, but fuck.
It's like a race to the bottom. Who can hit the bottom first?
Pretty much. Look at this shit.
I can't help but think with everything that's going on and everyone going at each other. Fuck me, there's a shit ton of money they got to hide behind excuses.
Could you imagine the amount of money riding on these wars right now? The entire financial
Crazy.
system. Goddamn right. I'll tell you what, Wolfie. You know, I think some people need to hear a little reminder as to who the cause of this problem is.
Man, it's all of them. It starts right at the very top. The controllers of the absolute whole of the globe. And then it works its way down through the governments. Russia, America, China, whoever. Then you have all underneath all the little leeches that are getting paid and won't fight against it, too weak. They're all coming out and they're all pushing their FUD in the stories. And you've got mainstream media and they're coming out and they're pushing their stories. And then you work your way right the way down. People don't know, people ain't awake, people don't want to think for themselves. People that are used to listening to the crap that they're being fed and just gobbling it up. And then you get to us, the voice that's growing, the people that are talking, really great BD, great people coming together, huge community coming together. The narrative is starting to change. The markets are fucking dying a slow death. They're using our great grandkids to pay this fucking money. This plunge protection team, they're using our money, our great grandkids' money. People ain't even alive are going to be paying for these fuck-ups they're doing. So we're going to win, we're going to change it. The narrative isn't the only thing that will change. And at the end of this, anyone who didn't come out on our side before it's over, Anyone who doesn't stand up with us side by side, whether you're 8 years old, and I've spoken to somebody recently who is, or whether you're 80 years old, I don't give a fuck about boomers or X generation. It's us against them. And this is our best chance to highlighting and showing the world we were right, we told you, we told you, we told you, and you listen to the bullshit that keeps you a slave. Out working to pay for a car you don't own, an house you don't own, a pension you will not get to.
It's goddamn
Before
right.
you get involved. I'm telling you, you got to wake up. You got to tell your neighbours, tell your friends, tell your family, let them think you're stupid, because when this is all over, we'll be the voices, the buries going forwards. 10 million of us all saying, fuck the governments, fuck the lies, you need to wake up. We did, we're now sat where we are. Your turn to wake up, your turn to fight like we did. Fuck them all, hedge funds, banks, we're all going at these hedge funds. It's bigger, it's the banks. It's bigger than that, it's the governments. We've seen the plunge team, we're seeing the Fed, they're giving them the money time after time, day after day. How much money were they going to lose that they thought it was worth getting the printer out again and flooding the market with fake money to prop it up? For who?
And we gotta fucking pay for it, right? You and I.
100%.
Our fucking kids, our kids are gonna be born with hundreds of thousands of dollars of fucking debt because of the Biden administration printing trillions and trillions of dollars to save us. And we were supposed to trust the science and take the vaccine, just to find out later on that we're getting fucked by the vaccine just as hard as we are by this Pentagon-sponsored sickness. It's a goddamn shame, right, brother?
Keep talking.
Wolfie,
Fucking right.
are we the fucking cause of this problem?
No way, man. We're the cure. We're the fucking cure. Everything stems from the New York Stock Exchange. All the big money, all the big players, all the big banks interacting in all the countries around the planet. JP Morgan's, all of them. Scum of the fucking earth for 100 years. They hid it. They didn't even have to hide it that well. We're now finding it. We've got Boss doing it. We've got other YouTubers. We've got people on Twitter. We've got people on Reddit. We've got people that did brilliant work and they were shut down by bots and haters and fucking interns in offices that were paid. Something that's been used for 20 odd years. This isn't a new practice. They've done this in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. They found a way of feeding bullshit to the masses. And the masses need to wake the fuck up. It's not just you today, it's not just the eco, it's not just worried about changes in the climate. The food we eat, the money they loan us, the jobs we do, the wages not going up since the 70s, 2 parents not being able to afford for fucking holidays or pay their houses, and every time they fuck up, we lose it all. Every fucking time, we lose it all, and they're doing it again today. So we got to wake everybody else up. Doesn't matter whether they want to listen. Start getting on your fucking boxes and keep sending the message. I don't care who tells them. I don't care who gets credit. I want to stop the arguments. I want to come together. Fucking GME purists, wake the fuck up. If you're a GME holder and you bought a $300, $400, I genuinely feel for you. I do. But don't be fucking hating on AMC, because if it wasn't for us buying AMC, it would be dead. Everyone hating on Adam Aaron. He has to do his job. We have to do ours. We bought, we hold. We bought and we hold. At the moment, it's $14. It's a $25, $35 company, AMC. GME, they dropped it down $84 to They're doing what they can to scare you off. They're doing what they can so no one buys it. We use mainstream media. We just buy, we just hold. We just look after each other. We keep spreading the truth. We keep the pressure on the SEC, DTCC, governments. How many people are going to listen to this and you haven't wrote to your fucking Congress? These are the little bits we can do, not important right now today, but in a week's time, a month's time, 6 months' time, they're going to have all that. You're going to have all that, a paper trail. We told you, we told you, we told you. They're there to do your bidding. If you can't go to them with a pot full of money, they don't want to listen. Don't vote for them then. Start telling them, where do you stand? How do you feel? How are you voting? Look at a guy that's on Unusual Wales, keeps flagging up. They were supporting the fucking war in Christmas. They were buying shares in fucking Christmas. And we're all sitting around saying, when's it going to squeeze? When we all come together properly. All start flagging up the paper trail, 20 years of it. Start looking at the SEC where they don't start going after the money, even when they find it. It's all fake. The whole fucking thing is fake. None of it's true. None of it. If it's on the news, it ain't going to be the truth. Even if there's an element of truth to it, it ain't the truth. Whatever's going on with Russia, we don't know. Whatever's going on with China, we don't know. Whatever they tell us, second guess it. Because it always comes out after. All remember the weapons of mass destruction. How the fuck ain't Blair in prison?
That's right.
Why ain't he in prison?
That's right.
What's
Bush.
no weapons of mass destruction?
Blair, Bush. Why aren't they both in fucking prison? How can they start a war, a 20-year fucking war, on false pretexts, on false pretenses, and actually hold their head up high and be seen in public, and people still think that they were good presidents? It's a fucking shame. And prime ministers, they're fucking crooks. They're criminals, and Biden is doing the exact same thing that we saw Bush Jr. do with weapons of mass destruction. They're trying to paint Russia and Putin as a bad guy in order to insert the United States further into this war. You know, Wolfie, you're right, man. Don't believe the whole fucking narrative, you know? And you got to be careful from both sides. China's saying the United States has 336 biolabs throughout the world in 30 different countries. That's a pretty bold claim for China just to make up, isn't it?
But that's the thing for me, and I'm a nobody, an absolute nobody. I've raised my kids well, I look after my family, I'm a decent human being. I look at what's going on around the world and I think it's bollocks. This war, the people in Ukraine didn't want this fucking war. People in Russia, Russians, did not want this fucking war.
Nope.
Governments wanted this war. And when you look at the governments and you think, oh, you got the left and you got the right, you know, you got Labour and you got Conservative, and in your own countries they've got different names. No, they fucking ain't. They're all the same. Every fucking one of them is the same. You couldn't roll every government on the planet together today and come out with a decent government. Why? Simple. Was the people of Ukraine asked about a war? Was the people of Russia asked about a war? You're going to get people come on the news and say, I support it, Russia, about time. You're going to get people in Ukraine saying, fuck Russia, we'll go to war, we're going to fight. That's not the majority. That's not the mums and dads, the nans and granddads, the grandchildren. None of them want this fucking war.
Goddamn right.
We don't have wars to people. We have wars for power, for greed, for manipulation, corruption, to scare you, to make you fearful, to make you bow down, to keep being a fucking slave. You know, crypto scares them. We all concentrate on finances, how you can and can't make money. You know why it really scares them? If you don't, do some homework, do some reading. The reason that crypto really scares this world is you could have a vote on any war and an answer in 24 hours with the entire fucking population on Earth. If you've got enough computers to be able to run the internet for the last 20 odd years, you can have a computer system set up for all votes. All of us, humanitarians, humans, mums, dads, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, sons and daughters. You could have an answer tomorrow to end the Russian war in Ukraine. Do you want this war to continue? Yes or no? And if the majority of the people said no, it should fucking stop. They're there to serve us, not us to be expendable or to be sent off into foreign countries to fight wars that don't make sense, haven't got truth, and there isn't a need. It should all be done above board. It fucking ain't. It's about time we all woke up to it.
Goddamn right, Wolfie. I didn't want to fucking interrupt you. Could not be more on point. People need to be outraged by this shit. If it doesn't bother you, you've got a problem. You've got a problem, you know? We didn't start this fucking war.
If you're outraged, they will call you a terrorist.
Exactly. If we don't... too many people at this point are being called sympathizers or terrorists just because they don't submit to immediately to following the mainstream narrative. It's the same thing as when people were being called anti-vax. No, that's not the case. People are just looking for real science, not made up bullshit. And the real science is that the United States has 11 confirmed biolabs in Ukraine. Some of them owned by Metabiota, which is owned by Hunter Biden's holding company. This is nothing to do with just Russia and Ukraine. This is not about freedom of the people of Ukraine. For the United States, this is a special interest for army bases, military bases, and biolabs. They are weaponry, weapons of mass destruction. That is what these fucking biolabs are. And the United States is calling out Russia right now, saying that Russia is going to use it as a false flag. Could it be maybe that we had something to do with the Wuhan labs, because they were Pentagon sponsored as well? The same situation's happening in Ukraine. We don't know if it was accidental or coincidental that it was released in China, but they're still having a lot of issues. For example, yesterday, March 13th, Shenzhen, the entire city of Shenzhen was put on lockdown. There are millions of people in that city. And they're still having issues with COVID. Meanwhile, here in the States, things have gotten a lot better. There was 3,000 confirmed COVID cases. And see, our skepticism of how it happened doesn't mean we don't think it's not deadly or not real. That's by far the opposite of what I want people to think. But people need to realize that the vaccine is also not all it's cracked up to be. And as we've heard on Project Veritas, an admission by Pfizer's CEO himself stated that the vaccine reduced people's natural immunity, thus causing them to need more booster shots, creating an infinite stream of revenue for these vaccine companies. Now Pfizer's coming out saying we need a fourth fucking booster. Are you surprised? This whole thing regarding sickness, COVID, war, is not about our health. If it was, they'd be giving your diabetes medication for free. You'd be able to get your insulin for free. You wouldn't have to go pay hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars or go up to Canada to get your insulin to save money because you can't afford it here in the States. You'd be getting it for free. It's not about that. It's all about bottom lines and raising companies' bottom lines. At the same time, the United States absolutely needed COVID spending in order to be able to justify the printing, the quantitative easing, and the printing of money that occurred in the beginning of 2021. Because on September 17th, 2019, the Federal Reserve implemented the reverse repurchase program. September 17th, 2019, the Federal Reserve already had a standing RRP, but actually had to interject and inject liquidity because the rate to borrow, the cost to borrow, went from 0.05 all the way up to 11% in under 1 day. It's an unsustainable thing. The RRP absolutely required, the Bureau of Economic Analysis has showed us, the RRP was absolutely required in order to boost the GDP of our country, because we were spending tons and tons of money on COVID. And that is what made the entire gross domestic product of this country look good for the last 2 years. As soon as the stimulus stopped, as soon as the bank bailouts stopped through the use of quantitative easing, which they're still doing, and they're still using the reverse repurchase every single day, almost $2 trillion per day, for an overnight RRP with a return rate of 0.05% from the Federal Reserve. Again, bailout money. Because these banks don't want to use their liquidity and inject them into 3-month bonds, let alone 5-year, 10-year, or 20-year U.S. Treasury bonds. They do not have the confidence in the United States economy, so that's why they're using the RRP to the tune of almost $2 trillion a day. Take a look at the Bureau of Economic Analysis here. The U.S. monthly international trade deficit increased in January 2022. It increased from $82 billion to $89 billion in January. $10 billion as imports increased and exports decreased. When imports come into the country, it reduces our GDP, it increases our debt. When exports don't leave the country, it does the same. The previously published December deficit was $80 billion. The goods deficit increased $7.1 billion in January. The service surplus decreased $0.6 billion.
YouTube can see that.
That's okay. I'll switch over to it. Here you go. For those of you that like to read, I'll switch over to this other screen. This is directly from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. The gross domestic product of this country is directly related to the amount of spending that we're doing, whether it be on war, whether it be on COVID. But it's the only thing that is keeping our GDP in a positive territory right now, which is in turn allowing these banks and market makers and hedge funds to keep our stock market afloat. Let's take a look at personal income, if we can. Oh yeah, take a look. You see what that says? 0.00. So our personal income here as Americans, sorry, I guess that's as large as I can make it on the screen right there, has not increased whatsoever. What has increased? Fucking everything else! Inflation's at 7.5%, according to their bullshit reconfigured calculation as of January 2022. We all know in reality, if you use the same calculations we used back in the 1980s, that inflation is closer to 20% right now, across the board. Across the fucking board. International trades in goods and services, negative $89.7 billion, an increase of almost $10 billion. International transactions in the quarter 3 of 2021 decreased by $214 billion. Gee, why would the international transactions in the United States decrease in the third quarter? Because we stopped quantitative easing and stopped doing as much purchasing of things from overseas. Americans and the government both. The only reason Americans had more money was because they were receiving stimulus. Plain and fucking simple. So you know what this means? Long story short, this kind of things lead to a recession. Before they get to a recession, they usually end up in a stock market crash, like we did in 2008 and 2020, as well as 2000 and 1987, and many other times throughout the years in the smaller terms. But the situation that we're having now, you can see here the gross domestic product shows it has increased by 7%, but again, that was also due to COVID-19 spending. Imports increased, exports decreased. There's less made in America than ever. There are less people working than there has been in many, many years because unemployment numbers are skewed. Anybody who has not looked for a job in over 4 weeks because, say, they have COVID, or there are other reasons like they're going to school or they're trying to, currently working in the gig economy, they're not considered unemployed. They're considered disenfranchised workers, people who are not actively looking for work. Therefore, they're not counted in the unemployment numbers. How convenient is that? The United States counts them as being out of the workforce. Look at the goods and services trade deficit. This is terrible. Terrible. If any economist or financial planner can seriously look at these charts and say from the bottom of his heart that he swears on his family that our economy is strong, I will slap the shit out of him for being a fucking liar. This is the 3-month moving average and the monthly deficit. What happened here? It was in the January of 2020, it was in the $42 billion range. And in less than 2 years, it has more than doubled. It has increased by over 110, 120%. We are importing more than ever, exporting less than ever. America's less sustainable than it's ever been. And Biden is playing stupid games with China, Russia, and the Middle East right now. Iran bombed the United States consulate and military base over the weekend in Iraq. Iran bombed the military base in Erbil, Iraq. Erbil is the capital of the Kurdistani region of Afghanistan. I'm sorry. Iraq. Excuse me, I misspoke. I'm not looking at papers. This is not pre-recorded, so I will occasionally make a mistake. I will try to correct myself if possible. You can look at the futures, but a lot of it is bullshit anyway. The VIX is currently being greatly suppressed, and the reason for that is because a lot of people are already properly hedged. Most institutions and people have already properly hedged themselves for the current situations that we have, and the real waiting game right now is Jerome Powell on Wednesday. J. Powell on Wednesday should be giving us an idea of if he plans to raise rates more than, X number of times. Because it seems like J. Powell doesn't have the fucking balls to raise rates by more than 1/4 percentage points. He needs to raise it a lot more than 25 basis points. It is not going to change inflation whatsoever to raise interest by 0.25. Not a fucking bit. The banks aren't going to pay more. The only ones going to pay more are you people that need to get mortgages refinanced or want to buy a home. You're going to get priced out even further.
Yep.
Because the price isn't going to be now. Your payment's not going to be $2,000 a month for that home. When you include your new interest rate, it'll be $2,200 or $2,300, and it might not seem like a bad deal, but you've got to consider this over a 30-year term. Maybe 10 years if you get to refinance down the line, but then you get relocked into another 30-year rate, keeping you in perpetual debt unless you refinance into a 15-year rate, which would cost you more money per month. So unless you are receiving more money magically in 10 years than we are now on 2% interest increases, on 2% raises, it's not going to do you a damn good, because you're not going to be making enough money in 10 years as we can to refinance if inflation continues in this current path. Because as I've shown you here, personal income in January 2020 increased 0.0%. But inflation increased 7.5% month over month, using the bullshit calculations that the government's using now to shove down your throat and make you feel like the Biden administration and our government in general is doing a good job. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll harp on the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, and everything in fucking between. I have no party affiliation. I think they can all go fuck themselves. With exception of maybe 1% of politicians or less that are actually trying to make a difference. Let's see. Economic well-being measures like GDP per capita and inflation and employment trends are something that they're trying to show now. And take a look at that. The GDP per capita is greatly reduced from the 50s to the 70s to today, from 3.8 to 3.0 to 1.7% on the real GDP, and 2.3 to all the way down to 1.0%. Now, what does this reflect? This doesn't just reflect a large and growing population, okay, as they say here. It has grown more slowly than real GDP when adjusted for inflation. Because the 2-3% wage gains, salary gains that you're making every year are nowhere near enough to account for inflation. The 2% target by the Federal Reserve was just their excuse or their limitation on themselves as to how much money they could print. Now that we've gotten ourselves into such a bad situation, the volatility index is starting to go nuts because our financial system is over leveraged to the tune of $426 trillion. $426 trillion just of derivatives, by the way. Just in derivatives.
I think that they're going to try and come in like heroes with the UBI. I'm not saying I support a UBI. I just, as you say, the wages not increasing and inflation increasing. I think that's the goal before 2024 because they don't have a good candidate. They're just going to be like, hey, here's $2,000 a month on the side. Eventually, to continue getting that check, it'll be like, well, did you get your shot? Did you turn in your one gun this month? Did you do this? Did you do that? I don't see any other way around it, to be honest.
You know what I do see happening here, I think? If Jerome Powell comes out in a bit of a more hawkish stance and says that he's going to have to raise rates 6, 7, 8 times at a quarter basis point, I'm pretty sure we will see some absolute crazy hedging on the volatility index, which would lead us to further dump on the SPY and a further increase on the VIX. Take a look at the last 3 months alone. Let's go 6 months so you can really see what started happening here in December. Things are starting to go pretty parabolic over here.
Well, we're on our way to a third intraday low today on the SPY.
What are we at, Martin?
So that's something.
Let's take a look at it. It's 419.43 at the moment.
Yep. And it has been down to this morning, 419.13, and just not even half an hour ago it was down to 418.84.
It is desperately, desperately clinging to that 420 mark right now. Jerome Powell, on March 15th, tomorrow, as of this filming, is going to come out and let us know a little bit more information. I don't know if he goes dovish and keeps a lower target for interest rate increases. However, I do have a feeling that month over month, inflation is going to go up by almost an entire percentage point. So we're from February into March. I have a feeling inflation will probably be from 7.5 up to 8.5%, which will trigger quite a panic, I believe, in the markets and in general. Did you guys see that ridiculous dump on Bitcoin yesterday from 40 to 38,000 in about a minute? The EU mentioned some possible regulations coming this week on cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin regarding proof of stake versus proof of work due to the vast amount of resources that's required for it. Whether they stop accepting it or regulate it to a different extent, I'm not exactly sure what will happen. It'll trigger a panic at the disco. Yeah, brother.
Yeah, $2,000, just like that.
Let's take a look. You know what? I want to see. Let's take a look at Reddit. I haven't done this in a little while.
Do you really want to do that? Rabbit hole central?
I actually want to take a look at my own Reddit post that we posted back in July of 2021.
See if it aged well?
I think we should.
Better than transitory inflation, I mean?
I believe so. Where, oh where can I see my posts? Slide this over. But as we're getting there, some fucking poetry. I ain't selling till they fire Janet Yellen. I'm holding until Citadel folding. I'll keep going until they jail Steve Cohen. That fucking crook. I'll not get rid until the SEC finds the FTDs they've hid. I'll not sell till I reach my floor. Until then, the world must know that our government is bought and paid for.
Amen, brother.
Until that price is ripping, I'll know there's still a lifeline for Kenny Griffin. I won't liquidate until the SEC stops using work time to masturbate. I'll not make a toast until I receive a flying bedpost. And when it's all done and I'm rewarded for having waited, I'll use my attendees to make Chicago sophisticated.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this one. The Congressional Budget Office admitted to us in 2021 that inflation and the gross domestic product will surpass its maximum sustainable level by the end of the year. I posted this 7 months ago.
It's been a wild ride.
With the cure, not the cause. We didn't do this. We're going to stop it, end it, make sure it don't happen again. Day after day, week after week, month after month. I don't know whoever said it, but we can stay retarded longer than they can remain solvent. Well, we fucking proved that 14, 15 months in. We're still here. For the most part, we're still together. No
Still
fucking
recorded as
telling
well.
us. We're doing it together, every last one of us. Everyone that hears this, everyone who talks to somebody else who's in this, every single person, important, just as important as the person next to them, in another room, in another town, another city, another country. All of us, every last one of us, sick to death of everything that's gone on. For years and years and years. If you're young, you've still got a lifetime ahead of you to do this. Get this sorted, get a voice, get involved, use the tools that we have to use to try and change it. But for us olders, we've been fighting these battles, we've been arguing about these things, we've been trying to kick off. It's never, ever, ever been a better time than we've got right now. Together. All of us, every one of us.
Well, and
Excuse me one
Wolfie,
second.
Adam Aaron was allowed to admit that retail
Hot shots, Marcel.
80% to 90%.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, you know.
Hey Sam, good man. Can I call you back in a little while?
I know a lot of people have different opinions and stuff about certain aspects, and I do get it.
Okay.
We're right to question.
I appreciate it. Could you give me a call back in about a half hour, please?
We need to do it
I really
together.
appreciate it. Thanks so much, buddy.
If it ain't helping, why talk about it? If we're not united, why fight about it? If people are coming into our Discord or coming onto Twitter or coming on, ignore them, blank them, kick them off, give them no airtime, no talk time. We don't have to suffer them, we don't have to put up with them. If you're in it, and we know you're in it, we're together. If you're in it,
Absolutely.
and you're trying to manipulate it and lie and bullshit and stir it up, fuck off. You know better than me all the other tools that they've got. So if you're some here poor intern that's just starting out and I've landed a decent paying job sitting in an office, coming on my fucking Twitter feed or in our Discord channels or on YouTube to spread your FUD, fuck you!
Goddamn right.
Fuck you all. Go back to your little fucking minion bosses. You all think there's something special, they're fucking nobodies. Griffin, you muggy little fuck, you're nothing. You're going to be the one that ends up being held up. But all the others, your Cohens, all the others, go and get them, line them all up. Let them see what they do. How the fuck can you do what you're doing every day of the week? Every minute of a market's open. All the manipulation, the lies. How fucking rich have you got to be off of our bastard pensions? We worked 40 years for that fucking pension. You rob it. Any time they fit. Buy Apple, they said. What's Apple market today? 3 trillion market's going to hit 3 trillion. They'd all be 3 fucking trillion if they weren't robbing it every bastard day.
Goddamn right.
Hedge funds create money, theft.
Look at this candle. Does that look like fucking selling or short selling? Because I know a lot of fucking people that are buying it right now, not selling. When you look at the flows of Fidelity data, of Webull data, 70, 80% of it every fucking day is positive buying pressure. The only way that this could be happening is through shorting, naked shorting, marking longs as shorts as longs, and many other things that they're doing to keep themselves afloat. This price is purposely getting beaten down with the Russell, with the ETFs, with the SPY, everything in the markets as far as it can before it runs. Why? Because the lower the price on AMC and GameStop get before they start moving, the better chance they have of not going completely insolvent. Okay, so if you guys have been watching me for a while or watching our channel here in the think tank, you know that we've been saying for 2 or 3 months now that AMC's probably going back to $8 to $12, and that's okay because I plan to load the fuck up more over there. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not a financial advice, and nothing you see here should be taken more for your entertainment and education purposes for you to go do your own due diligence on. That being said, I know I and a lot of people here are personally expecting a market crash. Why? Because we've seen it coming for fucking 7 months, you know? And when it does, it's going to take AMC and GameStop lower. And when they do, I'm going to load the fuck up on call options and a shitload of fucking shares. And I'm going to exercise off my fucking profits. I'm going to exercise a lot of my fucking call options and create a gamma ramp. The DTC and the fucking market makers are going to be calling us, begging the fucking cash cartel, please sell us your fucking shares. Please sell us your call options.
And guess what? Not fucking happening.
I'll sell them. $500,000 a share. That's the fucking price, Kenny. In August 2011, during the debt ceiling crisis, the CBO projected that the federal budget would show a deficit of close to $1.5 trillion. As of 8/1/21, CBO projected the federal deficit to be $3 trillion this year, as the economic disruption caused by the coronavirus pandemic, while the legislation enacted in response continued to boost the deficit. They tell us specifically, okay, which was large by historical standards. Okay, so at 13.4% of the gross domestic product, the deficit in 2021 would be the second largest recorded since 1945, exceeded only by what we saw in 2020. For the period of economic expansion from second quarter of 2009 through the fourth quarter of 2019, 10 years, real GDP increased at an annual rate of 2.3%. Then from the first quarter of 2021, from the second quarter of 2020 through the first quarter of 2021, real GDP increased at an annual rate of 14.1%. Why such a huge jump? It's specifically due to the vast amount of fucking spending, because 40% of all United States dollars in existence were printed in the last 2 years. This is the budget and economic outlook from the fiscal years 2011 to 2021. So we used the data that they gave us then compared to the data that they gave us in 2021, as well as the information we received from CBO, the Congressional Budgetary Office, to find out that in 2011, CBO projected the 3-month Treasury would be worth 4.4%. What's it actually worth? 0.05% right now. Are we close to 4.4? Fuck no. Because our financial system and entire economy is in the shitter. In 2011, they projected the 10-year Treasury bill would be 5.4%. Is it 5.4%? No. In July of 2021, it was 1.25%. Right now, I believe it's about 1.5, 1.54, give or take. That's not great considering we were supposed to be at 5.4, according to their projections. But guess what? The government projections are always wrong. They always either overestimate or underestimate. Do you remember inflation is transitory? Why do you think they told you inflation was transitory? They purposely underestimated the impact of inflation in order to be able to make inflation go higher so that you and me would have to pay more, and our children, in order to reduce while increasing the federal deficit, makes it easier for the government to pay back their national debt through the use of inflation. making us more broke in the process, killing the middle class in the process. Oh, whoops, cancel. So a report from BIA shows us that the second quarter 2021 was a fucking bloodbath, okay? Personal income decreased to $1.32 trillion in contrast to an increase of $2.3 trillion the quarter prior. That was 22% on average that quarter. Disposable personal income we don't really need. Do you have any disposable income? Because I need all my fucking money. Decreased also another $1.42 trillion. Real disposable personal income decreased 30.6%. Okay, in contrast to an increase of 57% in the first quarter because Trump and Biden bucks that they were printing out the ass. So in that one quarter alone, Americans lost almost $900 billion of what they consider non-essential money. Do you guys have non-essential fucking money? At the same time, your personal outlays increased 538 billion in the first quarter and 680 billion more in the second quarter. Do you think that the Federal Reserve did not know that inflation was out of control if our fucking spending went up from 540 billion in the first quarter to 681 billion in the second quarter and continues to fucking increase? Our financial system is in complete turmoil. Personal saving was 4.07 trillion in the first quarter of 2021. That's now 1.6 trillion. So from the first quarter of 2021, Americans had $4.07 trillion. We now have 1.6 trillion. I need to grab some water. I will be right back. 2 minutes.
Does everyone realise 2008 how much was lost that pension? Boss had just been running through some numbers, and if you pay attention, there's some astronomical numbers right there. He just showed you how much savings people in the United States had. Every one of you, all of you, all your savings together. And pensions in 2008, for nobody's fault who was going to work. They worked for 20, 30, 40 years paying into their pension. The 401k now, obviously, in the US. $5 trillion was wiped out. That was never given back. We recently found out it was $3 trillion that they said after 2008 was given to the banks to prop them up so that they didn't all go bankrupt. And that the fucking sugar done. They ain't done you any favours and they ain't helping me. But it was $3 trillion was reported, and then that changed recently that was released. It actually came out in 2019. But it was flagged up a few weeks ago and the guy did a video on it. He was one jumping. So it's $29 trillion to the bank. You know, they never have to pay that fucking money back. Yes, you've seen fines after they didn't collect. It's the money going round. It's your money that's going round. We get fucked everywhere. Tax, food, you get paid, you get the ground spending, you get paid the tax. Everywhere you go, paying interest rates. They earn more out of you in debt than they ever would give you money and being able to pay 5,000 people. It's endless. The truth is out there. We've got to wake up and make sure that's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're flagging up. And then when our culture people come out and fucking lie to us, hold it up, show them the court cases, the paper trail, show them the proof. Start highlighting people on our side that are in position. You know, Elon says some stuff. He's not the only one. Find them, highlight them, follow them. If there was a company come out tomorrow to support what we're fighting in the market, we should all go blindly. If they sell dollies, bloody buy them. If they sell flip-flops, buy them. If they sell bags of shit, buy them. Start looking at the companies that are doing more than just lip service. These fuckers were $5 trillion in 2008. A dollar then isn't worth what it is today. And a dollar a day ain't going to be worth what it was in 2008 in another year, 2 years, 3 years' time. So we need to wake up. We're going to be okay. There's a lot of fucking people that aren't going to do. So whatever you can do, keep doing. Whatever you've got around you to use to be able to do it, keep doing it. Spread the word we're the cure, not the cause. We've got to do all we can between now and then, because there's going to be people saying, why the fuck didn't we know? Why weren't we told? Well, we've tried. So we can hold our heads up when this is over, because trust me, you're going to feel it. Knowing £5 trillion lost from pensions, knowing that people today in America are living out of their cars. The market crashed. That caused problems in the home. People lost jobs and started arguing. They had no money. Bills that weren't being paid, mortgages that they couldn't pay, houses they were going to lose, cars they were going to lose. They split up. They then rent. The rent's going up. Your fucking banks are buying all your bastard houses.
Yep.
They're putting the rents up. They couldn't afford it. They're working jobs and living out of their cars. This is factual truth. This is happening today in America. People like me and you are not just low-paid workers. Computer programmers, computer software. These people exist. They're out there. Do your own work, flag them up. Hold them up as our fucking heroes. Because everyone who thinks they're sitting in an house today with nice cars and still having their holidays, come back in a year's time, I pray to God your family's still in the same position. Because if you ain't hedged, you're going to find you're going to get bitten. Because they'll take what you've got to pay back what they haven't. They'll take your houses the first time you can't pay your monthly mortgage. Or, even worse, they're probably to get a worse mortgage to delay the process so that they'll take 10% of the houses this year, 10% the following year, 40% the year after that. You'll hold on to it, you'll hold on to it, you'll be stressed, you'll be tired, you'll be angry. You'll end up getting where you're ill. And you're going and going and going and going, and then when them fuckers want to, they take it all off you. Don't tell me because you're on 200 grand a year today you're doing well.
That's right. Goddamn right, brother.
You just hit the third intraday low.
Third intraday low on the SPY and probably AMC as well, around 1349 today, right now. Again, I'm not thrilled about it, but it is what it is. The market's going to fucking crash. It's going to take all the fucking stocks with it. And hey, those that are smart enough to know what the fuck they plan to buy that's going to squeeze and they believe is going to squeeze, I think they're going to do really well. But again, none of us here are financial advisors and should not be taken as financial advice. Just a word for you to go do your own due diligence. Real GDP percentage change from preceding quarter. You see what happened here? Why did it go negative? COVID. So the United States printed fuckloads of money to increase our GDP. This is directly from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, U.S. Department of Commerce. Anybody who wants to tell you that the United States did not use and abuse COVID in order to increase the GDP is a fucking liar or doesn't know what we know. It is right here, clear as day, told to us by the fucking government over and over and over again. The increase, this is directly from the BO website, the increase in the first quarter GDP reflected the continued economic recovery, reopening of establishments, and continued government response related to COVID-19. What was the government response? Printing fucking money! In the first quarter, government assistance payments, such as direct economic impact payments, expanded unemployment benefits, and PPP loans were distributed to households and businesses through the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act and the American Rescue Plan Act. The full economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic cannot be quantified in the GDP estimates because the impacts are generally embedded in source data and cannot be separately identified. Meaning, we spent a fuckload of money and we can't tell the difference whether it's artificial or real. The acceleration in real GDP growth in the first quarter reflected the continued economic recovery from the pandemic as government assistance payments were distributed to households and businesses. Right here, as government assistance payments were distributed to households and businesses, this is what caused the acceleration in real GDP growth. An acceleration in consumer spending and upturns in federal as well as state and local government spending more than accounted for the acceleration in real GDP. More than accounted for. It didn't just account for it. It accounted for it and then some. These were partly offset by downturns in private inventory investment and exports by decelerations in residential fixed investment and non-residential fixed investments. Less investing in homes and commercial apartment buildings. Imports slowed because our supply chain was being torn to shreds. This is the report from May of 2021. Okay. We can see the more recent issues as well. And see where the fuck we're at. Okay, real GDP. Go ahead, brother.
Fourth intraday low.
Fourth intraday low on the SPY. And for 1, 2, 3, 4. Not the low of the day for AMC. We were low earlier. I misspoke. We were at 13 bucks. But yeah, we're at 13.49. Let's take a look at the SPX real quick, since we're on the subject. 41.82 on the SPX at the moment. This is a slow bleed. This is a slow bleed. Bulls are going to get destroyed. Take a look at this chart. Government spending and $9 trillion federal balance sheet increasing every fucking day. And quantitative tapering. No more government spending. The beginning of tapering. Period. And that's why we saw this. And then this massive crash. The plunge protection team at work trying to gently bring it down. Trying to make it seem like the Russian sanctions are not impacting our economy as badly as they are, which they are fucking us over terribly. Look at the price of gas. Look at the price of a steak. Look at the price of your ComEd bill, your fucking Nightcore bill, your energy, everything, you name it, it's all going up. All of it. But what's not going up? Wages. Not enough, at least. 3, 4, 5% is not going to cut it when year-over-year inflation's at 20%. Yeah, I go look at the 5-year pre-COVID, sure. Let's go to the 5 years here. September 17th. I'm sorry. This was in September 17th, 2019. You saw what happened here? We had a bit of a flash crash because the reverse repurchase program went all the way up to 11% in one day. So the federal had to step in and start fucking bailing them out. And then in 2020, right here, when COVID was announced, we had another flash crash, which the Federal Reserve traded and Jerome Powell traded many times as he wasn't supposed to. And here we go, upwards again. Look at it for the decade. We'll read it, we're completely flat. Flat, and then just spending. Anyways, I think you get the point. We've seen this coming for many, many months. A market crash was insinuated by the Congressional Budget Office, and they directly stated that the gross domestic product of this nation is surpassing maximum sustainability. Market crash. They're told us flat out. They claimed unemployment will decrease. It has not. People have just become disenfranchised workers, and disadvantaged and disenfranchised workers. We had the debt ceiling issues that caused further issues in the market. We had $28 trillion, now $29 trillion worth of debt. Let's keep going. Plain and simple, our GDP of this country is a complete fucking farce. All right, it was being held up by stimulus payments, government COVID spending, the repurchase and the reverse repurchase agreement of treasury bills. At the time when I wrote this 7 months ago, it was barely over $1 trillion. We hit $1 trillion already, just under $1 trillion many, many times. Come on, guys. This is fucking writings on the wall. It's in these reports. It's all out there. You just got to use your fucking head and go read them for yourself. And all I did here was tell you what they say, and I even gave you the links for them. You know what I mean? And that's what people are trying to do, is just share the information so you can go do your due diligence. All right? If you're not aware, the bubble of the stimulus has already been popped. It was popped in 2019. But it was still continuously growing. But we're at a point where it's so unsustainable that they can't patch up this fucking balloon. They can't patch up this bubble any further. It's deflating quickly. And pretty soon it's just going to fly away as all the air escapes it quick at the same time. Again, at the time, it was a record high $1 trillion per day. 7 months ago in 2021, where we were looking at this report. Okay, this is the St. Louis Fed report. Let's open that up. The St. Louis Federal Reserve. A 2015 report from the Government Accountability Office analyzing the 2013 debt ceiling standoff found out that investors reported taking unprecedented action of systematically avoiding certain Treasury securities. That's exactly what's happening now. Nobody's buying 3-month, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year Treasuries. They're buying overnight reverse repurchase program Treasuries for 0.05% return. This is in billions of dollars. This is 2,000 billion, which is $2 trillion. Okay? Look at where we were. 2018, nothing. You know, a little spike here. When was this? March 31st, 2020. $284 billion. $284 billion on March 31st, 2020. The stock market crash of 2020. Where are we at now? We started, again, back over here at 11 billion and then just took off in the beginning of 2021, in March 2021, and saw an all-time high of, gee, I can't even get it up there, but 1.65 trillion. It was even higher. No, this is not getting to the top of the channel, but it was like almost, it's over here. It's 1.9 trillion. 1.89 trillion. And that's a ridiculous number for every single day. The banks are injecting this money into the RRP, and the Federal Reserve the next day is giving it back to them with a 0.05% interest rate increase. So they're getting money every single day from the government because it's a quid pro quo. The Fed is doing this in order to keep these banks alive because the Fed is the one that are in charge of the New York Fed. The New York Fed is in charge of the Federal Reserve. Plain and simple. They're bankers, okay, that are not looking out for us, and it's as federal as FedEx. It's not a federal entity, okay? Plain and simple. It's just got the word federal in the fucking name. It's the artificial money printer at work. Look at this. 0, 0, 0, 0. And then it just takes off. Because these guys, it was at 1.904 trillion. 582 billion. So when I tell you that all this GDP growth that was happening can no longer happen because inflation is out of control, that if they continue quantitative easing and don't raise interest rates, it's going to make inflation go even higher when we turn into Venezuela. I don't want to pay $200 a gallon for gas like they do in Venezuela. But we're looking at $10 a gallon on the horizon really fucking soon. Really fucking soon. So I hope you've got a little bit of a better understanding of that, of the fact that our what we're saying here is not pessimism. It's not negativity. It's reading the information given to us by our own fucking government, by our own scientists, by our own economists and analysts, and the charts and the data that we have available to us to see that they cannot print more money to get their way out of this. They can't do it. We have none of the fucking safeties and strength in our economy left that we had back in 2008 and 2020 when the Federal Reserve started quantitative easing. None. Because of that fact, financial runs will occur. As you've heard by my former ex-girlfriend, as I like to call her, old Yeller, Janet fucking Yellen, who stated in front of Congress. Janet Yellen stated in front of Congress in September of 2021, testifying for the CARES Act, that there are, quote unquote, serious concerns that over-leverage by hedge funds will lead to financial runs, end quote. What that means is that the over-leveraging of hedge funds in their short positions, like Citadel, Virtue, Susquehanna, State Street Bank, and even Bank of America, whether it be in Bank of America shorting silver, meanwhile they're leasing it from JP Morgan and not taking delivery, whether it be Citadel and Susquehanna shorting AMC and GameStop, or other market makers and hedge funds shorting hundreds and hundreds of meme stocks. Janet Yellen's telling us that there's concern that it's going to lead to a financial collapse. Financial runs means that people will go to the banks, and you will see what happened in Germany, where people are pulling all their fucking money out of ATMs and standing in line until the ATM runs out of money, hoping that they'll get there. It's a fucking travesty, and a majority of people don't see it. Sadly, it's going to be our parents and our grandparents that don't see what's happening for the most part, and the kids are too young to understand. So those of us that can get the word out, I think really need to work hard to do that. Thorbladed said in the chat, thank you very much for your support, brother. He says, watch Putin be on the good side going up against the New World Order. Is the Queen of England even human? I've been telling everyone since 2020 this shit was going down. Venezuela could happen here. You know, Putin's not lying about the biolabs. And there's no lie that Biden's son and Pelosi's son and John Kerry's son all sit on the board of energy companies in Ukraine, making hundreds of thousands of dollars per month for consulting and not having to do a goddamn thing. The conflict of interest is real. You know, one more thing. Since I've got you here, if you didn't know, I really think it's important for you to know, how am I so sure that margin calls will lead to a mother of all short squeeze? Because it's already happened twice, except they didn't have a chance to flesh out because the executive order that was signed by Trump and Biden created sanctions on Chinese Communist Party military-backed companies that made that collateral, all those assets, all those stocks, completely worthless. And when that happened, it made both AMC and GameStop fly. It made them fly. And GameStop went up to $480. What the fuck did it go to? AMC went all the way up to $72. You know? And the only reason they stopped moving is because the executive orders, after a few days, were extended again and pushed off. So those sanctions were pushed back. They kind of kicked the can a little bit. Why don't I think this can happen again? Why don't I think they'll kick the can again? Because China is helping Russia through the use of their CIPS program, which goes around the SWIFT program. SWIFT is a banking system communications program that basically allows people or banks to communicate. Think of it as Twitter or Facebook, and Bank A is sending Bank B money, and they're saying, I'm sending you $1 million. There, send it through the SWIFT system like a tweet. And now it's going to make it a lot harder for Russia to communicate with other banks and companies by not being able to use the SWIFT system. So what they're doing is China has another system called the CIPS system. And it's the exact same thing. And America has already stated that if China goes and helps Russia through the use of these CIPS, that they will implement sanctions against China, or China could feel fierce sanctions or other repercussions. What does that tell you? These are going to happen sooner than people think. China doesn't have to invade Taiwan to get sanctioned. And if China invades Taiwan, it's going to create a situation where these sanctions are implemented again, and all this collateral goes worthless. When that collateral goes worthless, our stocks will fucking fly again if you know which stocks are heavily shorted. I'm going to pull up the executive order for you right now. So if you don't believe, you can see it with your own eyes. Let me transition my screen. Yes, Mike, it was extended through June 2nd, 2022. Whoops, I should not have typed that. I'll put the at in the wrong spot. The at, the ampersand, call it what you want. I've got them saved on my desktop, but I would just like to show them to you here. At the peak of GameStop and AMC price, Biden amended the executive order on June 3rd, delaying the effective date to June 3rd, 2022. This is a June 3rd, 2021 executive order. It is 30,145 pages long. It has only been seen by 11,000 people in the world. 11,000 people in the world have viewed this page. It is addressing the threat from securities investments that finance certain companies of the People's Republic of China. Joseph Biden, President of the United States, find that the additional steps are necessary to address the national emergency declared in Executive Order 13959 of November 12, 2020, which is the other one that I'm telling you about, addressing the threat. And here at the bottom, all the way on the last page, page 30,146, at 12:01 a.m. Eastern, the purchase or sale of publicly traded securities described in that subsection regarding these Chinese Communist Military Party stocks would be permitted all the way through 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on June 3rd, 2022, with respect to any person listed to the annex or the order. Okay, on the date that is 365 days after the date of determination in the subsection. So they gave it an exactly 365-day can kick from June of 2021 through June of 2022. This one was implemented on May 27th. Okay? See that right there? Executive Order 13959 on November 12, 2020, addressing the threat of securities. It was amended. I should start with the July one, with the January one, for those of you that have not seen this before. Okay? Let's start with the January one. This was signed November 12, 2020 by I believe Trump, okay? And all these Chinese Communist military companies were authorized through January 28th, 2021. What happened in the 2-3 days prior to January 28th? AMC and GameStop ran a lot, hundreds and hundreds of percent, thousands of percentage. And on January 28th, they ran even farther. That was GameStop's all-time high of $400 and something. Because why did they stop on January 28th? Because they went position close only by the brokers to give themselves a break. And then Biden extended it. That's the wrong one. Hold on. He filed another, they extended it through 9:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on May 27th. And then on May 27th, what happened to AMC and GameStop? AMC ran to $72. GameStop was running too. And they would have kept going. Except, they both started running. AMC ran to $72 on June 2nd or June 3rd. And on June 3rd, 2021, the executive order came out from Biden, 14032, stating that these would now be issued re-effective and permitted prior to and through, of course, June 3rd, 2022. Therefore, using the easiest form of deduction, January 28th, 2022, all-time highs of GameStop were caused due to margin calls and shorts covering and FOMO buying and gamma squeezing. And the only reason that it stopped was because the brokers, over a dozen brokers, went position close only through the collusion of their talks with market makers like Apex and Citadel in order to stop the sale of those securities, because they knew that if it continued, they would go completely fucking bankrupt, as would their prime brokers. Therefore, they put it position close only. Biden did them a solid and extended this through May 27th. Same thing happened. They got fucked. AMC ran through $72 on June 2nd, and on June 3rd, Biden re-implemented this, saving their fucking ass. thus the stock started getting shorted again, bringing back down. This is the reason the fractals look to be repeating, because they run up and then the executive order stopped the run up because this collateral became good again. So the margin calls were no longer in default. The market makers, the hedge funds, the banks, the prime brokers, the broker dealers all were able to resume trading and shorting the stock again, bringing the price back down. Same thing happened in May. Boom, ran it through. Now we're going to see the same thing June 3rd, 2022. But that's not all, because we are not restricted through June 3rd of 2022. Plain and simple. Here it is, right on my fucking Twitter. Issuance of Chinese military complex sanctions regulations. Okay? The transactions were authorized until January 28th, the day the buy button was turned off. Boom, right there. Signed by Andrew Agaki. All right, let's keep going. January 26th, another document was released, updating the effective date to May 27th. Boom. Boom. So they went position close only so they wouldn't go broke because things were already out of control. At the peak of the GameStop and AMC price, Biden amended the executive order on June 3rd, delaying the effective date to June 3rd of 2022, 365 days. Be careful, because the next executive order could cause a run-up at any fucking moment. Any moment. Who holds this shit? BlackRock and Vanguard. BlackRock and Vanguard face having to offload billions of dollars worth of investments in order to comply with the U.S. government's decision to blacklist Chinese companies with military connections. This was from the Financial Times. The order, which came into effect on Monday, has forced index providers, including MSCI, the FTSE Russell, S&P Dow Jones Indices, and JP Morgan, to announce the removal of several Chinese companies. Since you can't read this, I'll just go over here. This is from the Financial Times, telling us that BlackRock and Vanguard face having to offload billions of dollars worth of investments in order to comply. What does that mean? BlackRock was recalling their shares. Vanguard was recalling their shares of AMC and GameStop. Citadel, Susquehanna, State Street, all these fucks were being forced to give back their shares because they got margin called by the holder of said shares. Fidelity, BlackRock, Vanguard. They were being forced, and they announced the removal of several Chinese companies from their indices. The world's two largest passive fund managers are particularly affected because of the amount of money they manage in funds tracking those indices. Plain and fucking simple. The Vanguard FTSE Emerging Markets Index ETF index fund is among the top 3 mutual fund shareholders in 5 blacklisted Chinese firms: CRRC Corp, China Communications Construction, China Nuclear Engineering and Construction, China Railway Construction Corporation, Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation. The Vanguard Total International Stock Index Fund tracks more than 7,000 stocks in its composite of these indexes and had $407 billion in assets at the end of November. It is one of the largest fund allocators to 4 of the blacklisted firms. That means that the U.S.-listed Vanguard FTSE Emerging Markets Fund, which has $72 billion in assets as of January, had an exposure of more than 43%. So out of $72 billion, 43% of that was exposed to this Chinese collateral. Why do you think Evergrande and these dozens and dozens of Chinese developers defaulting means MOASS? Plain and fucking simple. Vanguard did not respond to questions on its strategy and timing for offloading relevant blacklisted Chinese securities from its funds. Since the executive, quote unquote, Vanguard said in a statement, and I quote, "Since the executive order was first announced, we've been keeping our client-facing associates prepared with a response for inquiries on the topic. In short, Vanguard will fully comply with the executive order and will continue to monitor the situation to ensure ongoing compliance." End quote. Also, so we know Vanguard had $72 billion. How about BlackRock? They had $70 billion in assets in their MSCI Emerging Markets ETFs with a 36% exposure to the Chinese market. What does that tell you? Shorts are fucked. It tells you shorts are fucked, man. Excuse me a second. So see, you can hear right here, $70 billion. So 36% exposure to the Chinese market. It's simple stupid. It really is. This is why I tell you guys that anything that happens, macroeconomics, geopolitical factors, war, sadly, is going to be the things that lead us to the mother of all short squeezes. Why? Because those are the only things that can lead the volatility that we need to crash this corrupt financial system and cause the shorts to cover. Because they will never fucking do it on their own accord. Never. Never. As of February 15th, the United States Treasury is adding regulations to implement this executive order related to securities investments that finance. They added more. They added more. Do you understand? Now, let me open original. Aside from the ones that it's a kind of bad quality, I apologize for that. There was quite a few firms on it previously. They added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dozen, 2 dozen, about 30 plus more. China Geonuclear, China National Nuclear, China Nuclear Engineering, China National Chemical Corp, you name it. China Space, China Strategic Construction, and so on and so on. Panda Electronics, you name it. China Aerospace Science and Industry, they are aviation industry. The United States is cracking down on China for their collusion with Russia. But I don't really think that they're doing a bad thing. I think they're just trying to trade amongst each other when nobody else will. They're being blackballed and be called the black sheep of the world for what's going on. There's a lot of conflicting reports. I'm sure there are innocent civilians and innocent casualties in Ukraine, but I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like Putin's trying real hard to take those cities. It seems like they're doing a lot of strategic strikes. I really know they're taking a lot of losses. But you got to remember, I believe 24 million Russians died in World War II. 3,000 or 5,000 Russian losses doesn't mean anything to Vladimir Putin. 24 million Russians died in World War II. I don't want anything like that to happen. But the fact remains that Putin just may have a point about the biolabs on his border, because they have shown through patent data to have sequencing in them related to Slavic genetics. The Slavic genetics are used in these bioengineered weapons of mass destruction. Let's leave it at that. Do I think AMC and GameStop are going lower? Fuck yeah. Am I going to buy them? A shitload of them. Am I over leveraged to the tits? Hell yeah. Am I going to over leverage even further? Fuck yeah. Am I going to be fucking rich? I sure as fuck believe it. Do I care if you believe it? Not at all. Because I think myself and everybody else in these stocks and in these plays, if they play their cards right, it's going to be filthy fucking rich. Plain and fucking simple. Because these executive orders will be re-implemented at any goddamn moment. I love you guys. Thank you for all your support. I could keep talking about this for hours, but I've got business to attend to. I've got to check my trades. I wish you all the best of luck. I'm waiting patiently, but I don't think it's going to take till June 3rd. I think shit's going to kick off way before then. There's going to be a lot more unknown unknowns that pop up to make this shit kick off and to really start sending these stocks to the moon again, including these sanctions that show massive, massive exposure to Vanguard and BlackRock and many, many other United States and international firms. Peace and wealth, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks for the info, boss.
Thank you guys.
Cheers, boss.
Appreciate you all in the think tank. Thank you, Wolfie. Thank you, everybody, very much. Good looking out, Eagle Eye. I'll see you guys on the next one, probably tomorrow. We got a lot more we could cover, but we'll save it for tomorrow. I ain't trying to keep you guys all day.
Way to go, boss.
Thank you, brother. You guys. It's all about us, not me. It's a fucking family effort, group effort. Ape Nation, Ape Strong together, motherfuckers. Thank you, Jackson, Hobby, Pam. Appreciate you guys. Trey's iPad, everybody, great, babe. Stephen Russell. Everybody in the Discord, I love you guys. Appreciate you all. Francisco, thank you, bro. We're gonna be so goddamn fucking rich. Hell yeah.
Hey boss, I got a question.
Hold on, brother.
What sound will the money printer do?
Brrr, print it, motherfucker. Jerome Powell, get the goddamn money printer out.